This is your Daily 5 for Thursday, October 16th, 2025. I don't think it's any secret, even to people who haven't been listening to the show for a while, because I just did a 5 where I talked about this, that I am a massive fan of the Deus Ex video game series. And I mean maybe not the fall. Every game except the fall, because that's the one that's the iPad game, and I just don't feel like the controls are good. I did watch the cinematics of it so I could get the story, and the story was perfectly fine, just not fun to play. But all of the mainline games that do not involve using an iPad for them, those are all great. Actually, was it an iPad at first? I think it was. I think it was touchscreen first, which is not great. In any event, I even really enjoy the prequel series that came, the most recent games, which was Deus Ex Human Revolution and Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I would actually, and I say this very sincerely, I would put Human Revolution pretty close to being as good as the original game. Now, of course, the original game just can't be touched. It is what it is. But I put Human Revolution, I think, a lot closer to that game in terms of quality than most people would. I think what's interesting is the original Deus Ex is somewhat made by its flaws. They actually add to the charm of the game. And I think Human Revolution's flaws they're not charming as much as the original game, but what flaws there are overshadowed by how much it does right. That atmosphere of that world that is so beautifully designed from an artistic standpoint, coupled with a soundtrack that I still regularly listen to. The Michael McCann composed soundtrack for Deus Ex Human Revolution is a masterpiece. Plain and simple, beginning, middle, end, put a period on it, nothing else to say. It is, in fact, that good. Now, when the second game came around, Mankind Divided, which we'll probably never get a resolution to because the publisher completely screwed over the developers by destroying the game with microtransactions, resulting in a massive cliffhanger at the end of the game that if we ever get another one, will probably be some kind of Tron Ares style abomination with barely any connection to what came before. So thanks a lot for that, everybody. Games industry, it's just great. But on the positive side, I thought Mankind Divided was a really, really fun game. I don't like that it ended on a cliffhanger, but all those same elements from Human Revolution were largely there. Now, I feel like it had a little less color. It had a little bit less vibrant of a world in Human Revolution, which is why it's not quite as good. But one thing it did that was equally as good in many ways was the soundtrack. And because of the size of the game, I guess they brought on a second composer to work with Michael McCann, I'm not going to try his actual name, I'll butcher it, but his artist name is Sonic Mayhem. And what he did was, as is often the case with any artistic project with a composer, he composed a bunch of music and they basically selected parts of it to use in the game, curated tracks off of it. So what you heard in the game was only a portion of what was actually composed for it. And for some, I think, planned DLC that both came out and didn't come out. Now, that's a fairly typical thing in games, movies, television, all that type of stuff. That's not unusual. What has become less unusual, but for a while was, you didn't often get to hear that other music unless the artist kind of bootleg released it or, it was on somebody's hard drive or, it was recorded somewhere and just accidentally got leaked. But more and more, the people who work on these are getting the allowance, which I think is fantastic, to be able to release these tracks. And Sonic Mayhem has now released 2 albums, as of this recording, of offcuts and unused music from the Mankind Divided soundtrack. The 2 albums are Fragments of the Machine, Data Archive Volume 1, and Fragments of the Machine, Data Archive Volume 2. Both available off Bandcamp, so that's great. And I think fantastically, both available for free if you want to not, to name your own price thing. Now, I paid for them, but I understand that not everybody has disposable income. So the ability to actually download and hear these tracks in their lossless quality and not have to pay for them, these are great albums. If you liked any of that music, which I love, you will have a blast with these. These are absolutely essential listening. And like I said, just to get to hear this stuff, and it really doesn't matter. These are the kind of tracks you could put on, and it really doesn't matter that the content was never released. They just compound's the wrong word. They just expand, better word. They expand the atmosphere of those games. Everything, because those soundtracks are so good. They so much make the visuals live in my head when I hear them. And this is just more of that. So I wanted to spotlight them because the fact that you can listen to them for free is just stupendous. But also, they're amazing albums. So I will link to both albums in the show notes. And again, if you like the music from those 2 games, go listen to these because all that stuff you liked before, this is just more of it and it's great. Later.